All right, today's Sunday, June 15th. Happy Father's Day to those fathers out there. And gonna go over it's gonna be a quick video to quickly go over the Euro USD, pound dollar, and dollar yen. It's kind of like a piggyback off what I was the last video that I was talking about potential bearish moves and what to expect or what I'm looking for going forward. So this is supposed to be a big week with FOMC, Federal Reserve, going to come out talking about their economic projections and, of course, unemployment claims on Wednesday as well, early in the morning at 8:30 Eastern, and retail sales on Tuesday. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that to see how this develops. But right now, I already have this drawn up as a rising broadening pattern. And if you've been watching any of my videos or any of my analysis, I absolutely love these patterns because they're just great when they work out, right? Especially with divergences, which I'll get into in just a second. But the last video that I made, I was talking about, we were actually down here, and I was talking about a potential drop from here, and I was saying that this is kind of matter of fact, we can use the replay tool. Let's just make, yeah, we were at this point right here, and I was talking about potentially decent short here, which I actually did. I went short at 1.1423, and I was trying to make a case for a potential divergence, right? But it was a stretch because technically price wasn't above this high over here, right? Not even close to the wick. So in some cases, it works out, but for the most part, if you want to go by the textbook, it's for it to be a true divergence, whatever indicator you're using, whether that's the MACD, RSI, stochastics, or momentum, whatever it is, you want price to go higher than the previous high, right? But in this case, I did go short here, and then the next day we had this big move here, and I actually got out. I could have held on because I still had a strong conviction that we're gonna make a fall, but I just took that small loss, and then wanted to see. I wanted to have some markers up, see if we are gonna hit some resistance up here and make a higher high than this. There has to be an area that I want to shoot for. So number one, I used a Fibonacci extension tool. I use both Fibonacci numbers, both Fibonacci number and Tesla numbers. Sometimes I stick to the Tesla numbers because I just, in many scenarios, it works pretty good for me. So let's take this low and extend it to this high right over here. We're going to use the magnet tool to get really accurate, and we're going to bring it back down here. So this is the area this was now my area, 130 and 136.9. This would be my area to see if we're actually going to make some resistance right in here, or if we're just going to shoot up and get above that. So I waited it out to see if we're going to make some high, and then we did. I didn't short up here yet. I wanted to wait to see if we're actually going to hold this up, right? Or if not, the next day I didn't want to go short here and then we get another extended rally. So once the next day showed up, I saw this red candle. I said, okay. I actually did go short at 1.1595. And then once we found a little bit of support here at this level right over here, I actually got out for a really small profit. So I kind of made up a little bit for this loss here, basically with this tiny short, but I wasn't sure yet. So something else to take a look at to see if this really going to be a resistance area is the trusted pivot zones. So if I put up yearly pivot zones, I see that, let me just remove the extension numbers. Okay. So right over here, I don't know if you can see it because it's kind of faint, but this is what I call intermediate level. This is a median level, again, an intermediate level, and this would be all the way up here, R3. So I do have levels in between R2, R3, and R1, and then the actual pivot. So these levels are pretty much respected, right? If you use a base pivot point, whatever it is, the daily pivots, weekly, monthly, I like to use yearly because I'm a swing trader, so I want to see big moves, 200 pips, 3, 4, 500 pips. There are definitely levels in between these. The main level in between each one is what you would call a median level, right? It's the median price in between each zone. In between that, you also have something called intermediate levels, which is kind of like the 25% in between the median and the actual resistance or support level, right? So that's a little education there that I use for pivot points. But to get back to this, I saw this intermediate level. We found some resistance here, and then we found some support. Once it came down to R2, that's when I decided, okay, you know what? Let's go short, and then put my stop at close to 1700, because if we do get a spike, or if we did get a spike going into this week, I still would expect a high, find the resistance all the way up here, which would be the median level, just slightly above 1.1650. Right now, if I X this out and I go live, you can see we gap down and looks like we might stay below this, right? So I'm going to hold on to short positions there along with the overall broadening pattern, which is bearish. And then if I look down, let me get rid of this. This MACD over here is diverging down. Okay, so we have resistance up here at an intermediate level on the pivot points. We have a bearish pattern, and we have a negative divergence on the MACD. I mean, that's an ideal setup, right? Whether it works out or not. But if we do drop, I'm looking for us to reach at least 1.12. 1.12 is also an intermediate level, and down here at just slightly above or below 1.11. So that's what I'm looking at right now on the Euro USD. Short, long-term bullish, right? Because if I remove this, and we go over to a quarterly chart, remember, this is just broken out of a long-term, very long-term folding wedge, which is a bullish pattern, right? I can even go as far as to draw a bullish divergence. Okay, so this move, I think for now, from what it seems, it's just as in its infancy. So I'm expecting, this is a macro move. This is a big long-term move. I mean, if you're looking on the daily chart, you're still going to expect pullbacks or fluctuations, given, of course, what's going on, like with Iran and Israel, as well as tariffs, interest rate policy, Fed, what they're going to say. It's just a lot of things in between. But from a long-term perspective, we can still take a look and say, hey, this still looks bullish on the long-term perspective going into the next couple of quarters. So we don't want to forget that. That's why if I go back to the daily chart, there's still going to be fluctuations that we can take advantage of in the medium term, right? So that's the Euro USD. Let's go over and look at the pound dollar. Again, another one on the last video I made when I think we were down here about 3,500. I was saying this looks like a good setup for a potential drop. Just move this for a second. Okay, there we go. And same setup, although it's not a broadening pattern. This is your typical, textbook rising wedge, which is a bearish pattern coupled with divergence on the MACD. So this is also a good setup. I expect this to drop if the Euro USD drops as well. Targets for this, I don't know, because I don't really. Well, I don't have my pivot points here, but I don't. It's funny because I use the pivot points. I find it to be more accurate on the Euro USD for whatever reason. But whenever I measure chart pattern projections, I always used Fibonacci levels. So I take the bottom of the pattern all the way to the extreme top, or vice versa if it's a bullish pattern. And again, I look at my Tesla numbers, 30 to 36.9, 60 to 69.3 looks a little deep. So I'm probably going to stick with, if I was trading this, I would probably stick with this zone right over here as a target, which is between 1.32 and 1.31. So I think that'll be a decent target if this price starts declining in the weeks and the days and the weeks ahead. So I think that is a good setup. Now, if you move over to the dollar yen, this one is actually pretty interesting, pretty tricky, because just like the Euro USD, we also have the broadening pattern, a declining one, which is bullish, but we don't have a clear divergence here. I would expect for this to be making an equal low or a slightly lower low in order to qualify this as a divergence, right? But it's nowhere near to a divergence because it's like sloping up. It's finding support here, right? Starting here, we have a bounce, 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 and another bounce here. Could it drop and potentially make an equal low? Possibly, but right now, definitely far from a textbook divergence. If I go over to a weekly chart, there is merit to a divergence, right? I will qualify this as an equal low, and then this also qualifies as a legit divergence on the weekly chart. So, if we're looking at a divergence on a weekly chart, we have an equal low here on the weekly. I would expect for us to reach like 148, on a pop up, maybe even stretching to 150. And long term, again, I'm bearish on the USD across the board. But if I zoom out, you can see I have this broadening pattern drawn up, which is bearish, but price is holding on to this support area pretty strong, right? Starting all the way back here, December of 2023, another strong bounce, September 2024, and then now we have another strong bounce here in April 2025. So eventually, I think we'll break 140, but you can tell by the price action. If I zoom in, there's a lot of fluctuation here, indecision. But considering this bullish divergence on the weekly, as of right now, I'm expecting this to, chop up and trade higher before a break to the downside. So that's pretty much it on the FX pairs. If I go down to I'm actually monitoring the dollar chart, but this is pretty much an inverse of the Euro USD, right? You have this low here, another slight low, and then you have a clear divergence over here. I thought maybe we're going to drop a little bit more. Like if I put the pivot points on, the yearly pivot points, where is it? Actually, I must have moved it from here. But anyway, there was another level right below this low, and I thought maybe we'll, drop down just a little bit more before we actually start finding a base. But as of right now, this looks like pretty much an inverse of the Euro USD. So I think the dollar may pick up some steam and bounce temporarily in the coming weeks. So that's pretty much going to be it for this week, this market preview. As you can tell right now, you can see the Euro USD now gap down slightly, recovering just a little bit, but that can change dramatically tomorrow and for the week, especially after the Federal Reserve FOMC. So that'll be it. I will do another video next week, and hopefully, we get some. If you're short here, we'll get a big drop. But if not, I will keep monitoring to see what's going on the price action on the Euro USD. But like always, good luck and trade safe. I'll see you guys in the next one.